everyone, Michelle here, and thank you for joining me on my channel. I am here with you today with a process video for Peartree Cutfiles. Now, this cut file is one of their prescription November releases, and I really think this is adorable with all the frames attached to each other. And so I have cut it out of a light brown paper, and I'm going to go ahead and ink the edges with vintage photo just to give it a little bit of age. And I'm going to take one more step with it and go ahead and cover some spots of my cut file with crackle medium, Tim Holtz crackle medium, because I just wanted to have kind of a old vibe to it. So this cut file is also available in separate pieces if you would rather pick and choose the frames that you want to use or change how they're oriented. But I have the file kind of set up the way I want it. I'm using the Nature Study collection from 49 and Market, and it had this lovely notebook paper. And so I am going to go ahead and adhere some of my photos. I do a lot of that off camera and go ahead and back them with some foam to give them a little bit of height. So I really love this ledger paper, but I really like kind of the botanist feel about it, and so I want to age it up a little bit. As you can see, I have pictures in some of my frames, and then I'm going to have three that I'm going to do some embellishment clusters in. But I'm going through my nature study rub-ons, kind of seeing what I can use on that background paper, and I decide to use a couple of these paint strip rub-ons. And I'm also grabbing some Tim Holtz uh, little papers, collage papers, and I'm going to use those in a couple different spots on the background just to kind of give it that science notebook vibe. And so the cut file does fill up a lot of the paper, and so a lot of this is just kind of going to be peeking out. So I'm using collage medium to adhere that paper, and I just kind of randomly tear some strips, figure out where they might peek behind. And I'm also going to add some coffee ring stains because, you know, what scientist isn't drinking coffee and maybe spilling a little ink on their ledger. I'm using, I believe, vintage photo for those coffee rings. And then I'm also going to add some ink blots, and I'm going to use black soot for those. So I kind of have an idea where I want my paint strips to go, and I'm going to add a few more uh, coffee rings in that same area, so it kind of doesn't compete. It kind of makes a couple of areas for your eye to go to. And I think here is when I'm bringing in my ink spots with that black soot. And so the photos I'm using are of a trip my husband and I were on last spring to Olympic National Park. And I've done a few pictures from this trip, but these pictures are from a whole rainforest. And so really amazing, particularly when it's wet and dreary out, because it kind of gives it kind of that, I don't know, kind of spooky vibe with the moss hanging from the trees and the swamp and all that kind of fun rainforest. It's a temperate rainforest. It's, I think, one of the wettest places in the country, and you would believe it if you were there. And so I also like from the 49 and Market Nature Study those little verbiage that I have under the a few of the pictures. They kind of look like science or paint work of art plaques. And so I really thought those worked well with this layout. And I am going to go ahead and take a look at what I want to add to my clusters. Now, I should have mentioned, you probably already noticed, I did trim my page down and added that brown plaid paper behind it. And so I think I'm going to stick with a lot of mushrooms and some greenery as I don't know if you can see on my tree or my picture to the bottom right, there's mushrooms actually growing on the trees in the uh, whole rainforest and really lots of mushrooms everywhere. And so then some greenery to go with those, just figuring out what I like in those three clusters. Now, for my title, I'm going to go with this large explore word. You'll see all my titles that I took a shot with up to the upper right, and some of those are perspective or bits and pieces from Marie's shop at Peartree Cutfiles. Um, but they didn't quite fit in the frames, and then I decided, well, maybe I need to go outside the frames with the title just so that really stands out a little bit more. So that is what I did with this Explore title. And so I'm getting my clusters the way I want with my mushrooms and adding foam tape behind the tops of them so they kind of give it a little bit of dimension. And I am going to work this camera in somewhere. I think it does go to that bottom right cluster. And I am inking a lot of the more solid pieces with vintage photo. Now, the mushrooms and some of the greenery, I don't even make the attempt. Just they're just too slim. But I do with the camera. I do with the large mushrooms, and then I'm also going to add an envelope up to that cluster that is on the left, and I will ink that one as well. All right, and so there's that envelope. I am going to use at least one bow. Now, I think I decide on a blue bow over there. Since I have blue up in that right corner, I want to try to add some in the other two clusters as well. So I decide on a blue bow there to the left. And I'm going to go ahead and start adding some to that top right, and some mushrooms and such up there as well. That is also where my journaling is going to go, and my journaling is going to be very straightforward, just whole rainforest. You'll see that here shortly. And so you'll see we are, it's like I said, this is spring. I think it's either maybe late February, early March. And so it was probably, I don't know, 35, 40 degrees. So a bit chilly, but that just adds to the spookiness. So that was okay. Um, and I don't know if any of you have been to whole rainforest, but I really liked it in the spring. I've been in the summer as well, and it just was a lot more dry. And so I really like it when it was kind of drippy. So I have these hinges that I added, and so they were also from the 49 and Market collection. And there is my title, Whole Rainforest. I used just some Hip Kit Club letters that I had in my stash. So I think I'm getting close to the end. I add that hiking word to go with the title. I think that was the only verbiage other than the plaques I have under the pictures that I've added. And I am going to add some hearts to the clusters, and that'll be it. The link for this cut file will be in the description. Check it out. The November collection is gorgeous. And thanks for joining me. Here are some close ups.